Hello, everyone. Thank you for spending some time with me today. My name is Ellie Richter, and I'm going to be talking about how to know if your child needs speech therapy. We're going to talk briefly about speech and language development and when we feel confident enough to take action if we need to. So, a little bit about me. I'm a bilingual speech language pathologist, which means I work with kids who speak all different languages, but I specialize in English and Spanish. I've been working for just about 16 years now. I am a mom of two. I have an 8-year-old and I have a 2-year-old, and we have done all the therapies. So I understand the need to be practical and flexible and really focus on what we need to get done right now and what can wait. What I do in my day to day, I provide virtual speech therapy for children in English and Spanish. I work on speech sounds, which you might hear called articulation, and I work on language development. So children develop language fairly similarly, but everyone has a different trajectory, and we can kind of figure out what needs to be happening when. That's something I love working on. And I also support families who have children who are bilingual, who speak multiple languages, and might have a speech and language delay. So, what makes therapy with my company different? We do one-on-one personalized sessions to your child's needs. We are specialists in online, engaging, personalized, fun speech and language therapy. We value clear communication with family members so that you always know how your child is doing, and we're always working on the goals that will get your child to the next level. We specialize in using simple strategies that you can home that are embedded in your daily life so that things don't feel too overwhelming to the point where you feel paralyzed and can't do anything. We want you to take little steps during your daily schedule to help support the carryover at home. That is what makes therapy with the Essential Therapist different. So, for today's webinar, we're going to learn what to anticipate in your child's communication. There are typical developmental norms for speech and language, and children fall within a very wide spectrum of what is normal for them. So, we're going to talk about what is common and then when it might be important to seek additional support from a speech therapist. You are going to walk away with some practical tips that you can use today at home. And my goal, so you know, is to help you feel confident in supporting your child's speech and language. My company's goal is to make speech therapy accessible to anyone wherever they are located. A little bit about my story. I started studying speech therapy a long time ago. And I became a parent 8 years ago with my son, James. And I became a parent again 2 years ago with my daughter, Juniper. Juniper was born 2 months early and spent almost a month in the NICU. And as she grew, she was on a delayed schedule. As she grew and developed, I was starting to second guess, is her development normal? Is this typical? This doesn't look like how my son was developing at the time. Everyone kind of reassured me like, no, this is normal. You don't need to get any help. She's doing fine. She'll catch up. Well, as she grew, we celebrated every step, but by 15 months, Juniper still did not have a variety of consonants or vowels to be using in her speech. And I was like, I knew that at 18 months for her, she really needed to have a handful of words, and she needed more sounds to be able to make those words. And I knew that if she wasn't using a variety of consonants and vowels, we weren't going to hit what the typical milestones were. And I was probably a little bit extra, but I was also really nervous because we had been through so much with her that I wanted to get help right away. She was mostly grunting and pointing. She was getting her needs met as the youngest child with a very helpful older sibling. She was living her best life, but I knew what was coming next developmentally. So even with my background, I paused and I asked 3 of my colleagues to come over and listen to my daughter talk because I wasn't trusting myself. I said, I feel like it's probably okay, but I also feel like maybe I want help. But is it okay to want help? So I want to use myself as an example. If you ever feel like you need help for your child, please just go get help. Don't do what I did. Don't wait like I did. So I did what I always recommend to families. I eventually got help. I had 3 of my friends come over and we all kind of concluded she's probably okay, but it wouldn't hurt to get her help. So I enrolled her in private speech therapy and we committed to 2 sessions a week. And by 8 weeks, she had caught up with all of her sounds that she needed at her age. So she didn't have all the sounds, and the sounds that she did have were not perfect, but she had what she needed at her age because we just needed her to get to the next level so that she could continue to improve on her own. Her sound inventory, so all the sounds she had, expanded. She began experimenting with new sounds, animal sounds. You could hear her starting to play with language instead of just kind of grasping for it. So by 18 months, she had around 50 words. We finally made it. And now at 2, she's just starting to combine 2 words to communicate, expressing herself, show interest in things, and her personality is really coming through. So this whole experience with my daughter Juniper really reinforced something that I've always believed, but now I had experience with it. Early support isn't about labeling a child as delayed or disabled or needing help. It's about giving them access. And that is our whole goal, especially with my company. One of my core values, my first, actually, I have it on the wall over here. My first core value on my list of company values is access. Our goal is to give access to children who need services, access to sounds, access to words, access to connection and communication, however that looks for your child. And just an aside, sometimes even when you are the professional, you still need a team around you to say, yes, this is the right next step. So I'm very grateful to all of the SLPs that looked at me and they were like, yes, go get help. Okay, moving on. Speaking of what most parents are told and what I hear when I work with parents, someone has told them to wait and see, oh, they'll grow out of it. Or what I see a lot in Facebook groups, your brother, sister, cousin, my neighbor's kid didn't talk till they were 4 and they're just fine now. You might hear things like this, but what's important to understand is these comments they're not specific to your child. Okay. Every child is different. Every child has a different trajectory. Okay. If you're worried or if something doesn't feel right, you are allowed to seek support from a professional. Facebook groups are great, but no one in that group is your child's speech therapist. Okay. You do not need to wait for someone to tell you it's finally bad enough. You don't need to wait for your child to fall significantly behind. Speech language pathologists are the professionals that are specifically trained in speech and language development. So we look at the full picture of communication, sounds, understanding, use, and how everything comes together. So if you have concerns, you have every right to get support early and often. To follow up on that, don't wait and see. So sometimes we use the term speech. Oh, we need speech. We need speech. Sometimes when people say that, they mean language, or they mean speech and language, or they could be referring to fluency or voice. But here's the breakdown. When we say speech, we mean the sounds they use. When we say language, we mean the words that they use and what they understand. So are they understanding the information that's coming into their brain? Are they using the information that they have? Use could be speaking or it could be using a device. Fluency, that refers to stuttering and disfluency. So how smooth is speech? And then voice is sound quality, okay? Here are some big picture milestones to keep in mind if you have a young one. By age 1, typically, kids will say a few words and use gestures. So pointing at what they want, waving goodbye, waving hello. They might say mama or dada. By age 2, kids have around 50 to 200 words and are starting to combine words together. For example, more juice. We really need to hit approximately 50 words before kids have enough in their repertoire to start putting them together. And then by age 3, children are speaking in shortened sentences, combining 3 words together. General rule of thumb, this is very general, but by age 1, we're using 1 word. At age 2, we're putting 2 words together. At age 3, putting 3 words together. And we're about 50 to 75% intelligible, which means being able to be understood by people who are unfamiliar to our child. Okay, so 18 months is approximately 50 words, so that by the time they hit 2 years, they can put those 2 words together. At 2 years, we have about 200 to 300 words, and that jumps significantly at 3 years to about 1,000 words. So often, as SLPs, we use the word intelligibility. This does not have anything to do with intelligence. It has everything to do with speech clarity and how people can understand your child's speech. Age 2 to 3, 50 to 75% intelligible. And then we're mostly intelligible around 4 to 5. And then we're clear with maybe a few errors at 5 and older. Okay, we're not looking for perfection. We're looking at the trajectory of speech clarity. Okay, and understanding language. Children should be able to follow simple directions at age 2, follow 2-step directions at age 3, and answer simple questions. So, where are your shoes? So at 2 years, we might say, go get your shoes. Okay, that is a 1-step simple direction. At age 3, we may say, go put your socks and shoes on. Or we might say, where are your shoes? And they should be able to answer questions like that and follow directions. At age 4 and 5, following 3-step directions. This is where it gets a little tricky. Maybe they're getting ready for pre-K or kindergarten, and the morning routine gets a little more complicated, and they have to follow multi-step directions. By 4 to 5 years old, they understand most everyday language that we use. Okay, so when should we talk to a speech therapist? I'm laughing at myself because I spelled language wrong on the previous slide. I was typing too fast. My apologies. Okay, when should I talk to a speech therapist? If your child is not making a variety of sounds, it will be very difficult for them to put enough sounds together to create words. Okay, so I'm using myself as an example with my daughter. She did not have enough sounds to create words. And so we went and we got help for that. If they're not using any words by 15 months, or if they're using less than 50 words by 2 years, if they have difficulty following directions, simple directions. I'm not saying go change the tire outside in the garage. That is going to be too difficult for a kiddo, but go get your cup, or go put your diaper in the trash, something like that. If they are difficult for other people to understand at age 3 or after age 3, or if they have limited social interaction, those are all things that you should keep in mind when looking at the total development of your child. So please don't pick out one thing. Look at the total development of your child. These are things to consider. Okay, what you should know. Ask questions. Trust your instincts, and seek an evaluation if you have questions. I spelled pediatrician wrong. I'm so sorry. Okay, you do not need a referral from a pediatrician in order to have an evaluation or receive therapy. So, good news. If support is needed, early intervention is effective. Therapy can be play-based and engaging, and progress can happen quickly with the right support. When we look at therapy and progress, we are looking for how is therapy going, and then how is the carryover at home. So, especially with younger kids, with all kids, but especially with our younger ones who are just learning to use their voice, we really need a lot of support at home. We take a team approach. Okay. So, speaking of team approach, these are simple things that you can do today to help build speech and language skills. I spelled it right on this page. We want to talk about our daily routine. So, when my daughter comes home, I'm like, oh my goodness, let's go change your diaper. Let's go get a snack. First, we're going to change your diaper. Let's go to our bedroom and pick out a diaper. We'll change our diaper. We talk about our routines. We sing songs. Probably the funnest thing you can do is create a song about whatever you're doing. Oh, wash your hands, wash them nice and clean. Wash them nice and clean. Sing songs. You are pairing that language with everyday routines. Expand what your child says. So, for example, my daughter might say, milk, milk. I might respond, oh, you are thirsty. You want milk. Let's go to the kitchen and get some milk. I'm going to pour. Now I'm talking about my routine. I'm going to pour the milk into your cup and then tighten the lid nice and tight so it doesn't spill everywhere. And then I'll hand it to her. Read books together. If you haven't yet, look into Imagination, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. You can get free books every month. You can get a free book every month from her book donation program. So read books together, go to the library. You can get books there. If you lose library books like we do, we have a limit and we only take so many home and we read them there. Give choices. So instead of saying, do you want juice? And having them nod yes, you could say, do you want milk or juice? And then they get to attempt to verbalize an option or their choice. And then follow their lead and play. If they want to get down on the floor and crawl around like an animal and make animal noises, what a great opportunity to practice vocalizations. Okay. So I did my best to keep this under 20 minutes so that you could watch this over your lunch break or listen to it on your drive home. If you are wondering about your child's communication, let's talk. Feel free to click here. I believe you should be able to click this link. If not, I'll drop it in a comment. Feel free to schedule a consultation with me. It's free. We can talk about what your needs are and what might be the next best step for your family. Thank you so much for being here. Again, my name is Ellie Richter. I run the Essential Teletherapist. We specialize in virtual speech therapy for children. I would love to connect with you. Thank you so much for being here.